journalist in this country. You have to draw the line of the majority voice. I'm sorry to say it. I'm not permanent anymore, and I can say what I want. For many years, I've been silent. You say we must speak truth to power. Yes, let's do that. And know that as a journalist, when you do that, you can be on your own. A black woman in this industry will not be supported when there are tons of bricks coming down to you. We've seen it. It's still happening. It will continue to happen. Replace truth-telling with market-driven clickbait. It's happening. We don't tell stories in a proper context anymore because we want to trend. We're chasing the numbers, and therefore sometimes we don't even find time to do proper research, and that is why people will go back and apologize. Get it? Better late than being incorrect. And therefore, I think all what you have said, Prof, you are correct. There's a lot that needs to be done and that needs to change in the industry. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll have that conversation about you have to toe the line, not today, some other time, Sophie. Thank you. Let's go for it.
I thank you very much, sir. Prof, am I allowed to say Amandla? Okay, thank you very much, Prof. I find myself in the presence of the greatest or greatness. Tell me, I'm not talking about those whose places they are dwelling. When last have you been to an event where you are being welcomed by a professor? The keynote speaker is a professor. The panelists have so many titles behind their names. In fact, we're the only ones who have never written a book here.
My wife is very angry with me for that.
No, you write a book every day. It's just about it. It is an honor. I know this is the phrase that gets to be very much abused. It is an honor for so many things. One, Usis Toko is here, the daughter to PERCY QOBOZA. I've no idea, colleagues, you know what this means. You know, let me pretend to be a professor as well. Allow me to
Imagine if Dr. Komalo said that.
Okay, it's all right. Allow me to respond by way of a quotation. There's a scholar somewhere, or he used to stay somewhere in America. His name is Horace Mann. I'm sure half this all knows that guy because he made education very fashionable. This fellow, I love two quotes from this fellow. The first one, that is not very much relevant today. It's along these lines. I might be paraphrasing him. He says, a house without books is like a building without the windows. I've looked at this and I interrogated this quote. Wow, so profound. But the one relevant for today's or tonight's session is the one that goes along the lines, I quote, he says, "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victories for humanity." I decided to use this one because it represents the person we are honoring tonight. Utatu PERCY, if you check similarities between him and those we called our leaders. I'm talking about O.R. Tambo, I'm talking about Chris Hani, I'm talking about Bau Mandela. The similarities between the two, they shared what was defined by some scholars as the principles of our democracy and freedom. The aspirational principles of our democracy and freedom. Basically, they were defining what was to be South Africa's cultural goals. They were defining abotata uPERCY. What is it that as South Africans we were going to say, this is the vision that we are ready to die for? Now, abatata bonke, even though some use the pen or the ink of the wise to pursue their struggle, they allow the pen to do its truest purpose, to educate the South Africans. Some decided to go the route of the warheads, grenades, guns of war, to pursue the same values, to pursue the same vision that abotata abafana nabotatu PERCY QOBOZA abomonopatela abotatu agri. I'm very happy one of my panelists motivated for Utatu Agri Cluster to be considered as a recipient of the national awards. And thank you to you, Temba. Today, we know our government took them serious. Equally, Utatu PERCY was awarded with the same national order, Ikamanga. Ikamanga is this beautiful flower, South African flower. So this is named after that flower. Utatu Monopatela, I know we are journalists.
I want to give you 30 seconds
We are
now.
not mathematicians.
Can we do that?
We don't know how to count.
Lennox, 30 seconds, right?
I'm done. I thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I just want to, and maybe a quick answer on this one from all four of you, because I think it's such an important one, right? So we will go down the line from first to last once again. Bongi, just what do you think? So, a quick answer. What do you think is the role of the media today? A lot has been spoken about who owns the media, but ultimately, what is the role of the media?
The role of the media is very simple. It is to be the voice of the voiceless. But I think over the years, or as time has gone and we have prioritized many things, that role has been diminishing. But ultimately, we do what we do because there are people who can't be where we are. There are people who do not have the platforms that we have, whose stories we need to tell.
Okay, and I think simply said, just telling the stories of the people, the voice of the voiceless. Got that. Jemma, you? Role of the media?
For me, I'll start with journalism before the media, because journalism on its own is history in a hurry. We're recording history, things that the future generation would go and read. The very basic role of the media is to stand on the barricade, to speak on behalf and to be a vanguard of the public. What we're saying as a watchdog role, we're looking at executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And we also flip the mirror on ourselves. The role of media is very, very critical and crucial. We are part of the public. I come from Soweto. I don't come from anywhere else. Before I say I come from Soweto. So I must, firstly, when I see sewage spilling down the road, I must report it not because of myself, but because of the residents of Soweto. When many years ago, I was writing a column in the Star newspaper, advocating for Soweto malls, for township malls. We wrote it when Maponya Mall came. We wrote about it before. Soweto ATM, Soweto robots, we wrote about such. So what we did was for the public, not for us. So what we're doing, we're feeling tax violence. I've covered a lot of tax violence. Covered it, get inside a taxi, experiencing some violence. I report it not because I want a scoop or a story. I report because there is something happening brewing in Soweto which will affect people of Soweto.
So on that basis, if we agree that the role of the media is to tell the story, the voice of the voiceless, but should the media also be the activists? That means, like you mentioned the Maponya Mall story, there's no mall in Soweto. So should you then see a vacuum and then agitate for that change, and then the change may come? Yeah.
You know what the biggest problem is? If media journalists are not activists, they become pedestrian. They become 9 to 5. An activist doesn't mean that you have to belong to a political party or a host your political. We all come from a political parties, but when I write, you don't even see that I come from political party X. Even those, they would come and say, but you've written something that says it is the truth, it's affecting people. No way I'll become embedded, no way I'll become a stooge of someone. I'm Temba, I'm independent, whatever I wrote 35 years, 30 years ago, I still stand by it. Whatever I'm writing today, I still stand by it because the truth shall prevail.
Okay,
that's what I believe.
that. Thank you. Sophie, you?
To tell the story as you see it, without fear, favor, or perhaps being intimidated, just tell the truth.
Okay. You got that. That's a quote. Go for it. Danix?
Thank you very much. Professor Pulen answered your question. I'm going to try and steal some of her words.
The media will report on it, by the way.
No, that's fine. I'm going to try and steal some of her words. There's a question, and the question is about a question. It goes along these lines: the death of the question. Now, she asked this question, but she was very specific. She inquired if the city press, I'm sorry for mentioning the name, if the city press writers are writing the same way that we believe Utatu PERCY will be writing his pieces today. What has changed? So what I feel, we are going to have to find a way to redefine what has been considered the role of the media. Fortunately for them, there's a template already that is designed for them, that of to educate, to inform, and to entertain. It has been designed. All what they need to do, they must not extricate themselves from what is happening in South Africa or anywhere in the world. People of South Africa have defined their cultural goal, the aspirations that each and every one of us is being encouraged by the society to achieve the better life for all. What becomes the role of the media in pursuance of that role? They're going to find very brilliant ways to entertain people so that they buy into this cultural goal. Educate people so that they embrace this cultural goal. Find a way to inform the people that this is indeed our cultural goals. Our pathfinders died for.
Okay. Can we just pause there, because I want to just pick up on other things too. I thought it's an interesting point, Temba, that you made when you said, we all belong to parties of X, right? The reality, there's a platform called Twitter, which is now X, and many talk about that. Get my point in terms of its influence. So I mean, I'll leave it to anyone to answer, right? How do you, maybe Sophie, just let me start with you, because I mean, you've had such experience locally as well as globally, right? Just, there's a sense amongst people in South Africa and around the world that the media has moved from beyond just reporting, but to outright activism, and by say activism, choosing sides on global projects, and some of those sides are not good sides, they're not honorable sides, and therefore the media cannot be trusted. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think this is not something new. Maybe because now with all the technology and different digital platform, people are able to interact and one can see what's happening and you can make your own informed decisions. But this is not something new. If you would recall the war in Iraq, you had embedded journalists there, and the intention was clear to push the narrative of the NATO group or member countries when they invaded Iraq. And therefore, this is not something new. But the truth of the matter is you still have media houses and journalists who are true to their profession in terms of ensuring that you tell the story as you see it in a fair, balanced manner without fear or favor.
Okay. I wonder, I mean, let's pick it up from a News 24 perspective, and I just want to get your thoughts on it. I mean, I'm sure you get it, we all get it, on a single day, you know, you're pro this, you anti this, you love this, you hate this. It must be incredibly difficult. I think the soft stories are fine, right? You know, but how then do you navigate that?
I was hoping that you were not going to bring my media house into this conversation. But I think it's what Sis Sophie is saying. I don't think you can always make people happy. Audiences will never be happy. It doesn't matter how you report news. And like Sis Sophie says, because people have access to information more than they used to have back then, where they only relied on radio or relied on what they're being told. And I think people are allowed to make their own decisions, or allowed to make their own conclusions about how you report the news. But I think at the heart of what we need to do, and the responsibility that we have as journalists, is to stick to the ethics of our profession, is to be fair in our reporting. And of course, you know, there will be those things. I mean, I think as human beings, people will always take side, and you will see that crop up when people write opinion pieces. That is their, you know, that is their opinion. But I think what is important and what is critical is that we are responsible in how we report the news, especially in South Africa right now. It's critical that when people come to any platform, not just the platform that I work on, they can be confident that they are going to get a news that is fair, that is balanced, and how then they interpret that and make their own conclusions, whether publication X has taken a side is completely, I don't think anyone has any power of changing the minds of people.
I think that's a good point. I wonder, let's continue, let me pick up from your side. I mean, there's a sense, and I look at the South African example, that, you know, people will say, well, if you read News 24, then you'll get that perspective, or Daily Maverick, you'll get that perspective, or the Star newspaper, or the Sowetan, or Mail and Guardian. And then in broadcast media, while you listen to SABC, or you get SAFM, you get that perspective, Power FM, another perspective, 702, another, I can go on and on and on. What am I saying? There's a sense that from an audience point of view, they expect you to be truthful and honest about how you analyze it, and sometimes you can analyze wrong. I mean, it happens to all of us, but at least to be honest about it. But do you agree that nowadays the consumer of media expects a media house to have a position, a plurality of opinions, and you must follow a plurality of different media. That means you're not going to get it in one media house, and that's okay. Your thoughts?
All right. Maybe let me start from where you started earlier on Twitter. There's this misnomer about Twitter or X as a certain community, you know, with certain followers. There are a lot of fake and parody accounts there. Temba with 7 accounts, spewing a lot of nonsense, and we take him seriously. So it is not a community. It's something else. I don't know, people get stuck and suck up in Twitter. The reality is that as soon as I leave my gadget, I see reality of life. Where I live, where I come from, where I drive. I see street lights, I see, you know, being uprooted, a lot of things. We have made Twitter where as a space, as if, because it's a go-to a source of news. Yes, it is. But it's not reliable most of the time. It's because we have a lot of fake and parody accounts. We don't know who's this man, what lawyer, but it is Barry something or Batman who's been that Barry, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? No, tell me who do you know? Who's Barry? Do you know? No, it's a parody account. If someone sitting up there with a lot of data, posting nonsense, and we follow it. There's this other one, X something. You know, I follow them. I said, but really, we are following nonsense, to be honest, to me, most of the time.
Okay, but what's your point? No.
Yeah, I'm saying let's just move on there. What I'm saying is, VC, you spoke about ethics when we were upstairs there. Ethics is what I live. Ethics is what I eat. The biggest problem where we find ourselves with South African journalism is lack of basic tenets of journalism, ethics. It doesn't matter who am I covering, but the important thing is that I must stick to the basic tenets of ethics. When you point a finger at colleagues in the media about transgressing the basic ethics, they throw stone at us. And luckily now, I sit in the press council. We tell them, but this, you know, the piece I wrote now, I said, many pieces that I read about Mukwanas recently, News 24, Times Media, stories were editorials, but they are stories. A story must report a story, is reporting. But now a story where you bring your own opinion in a story, that is not journalism. You are killing this sacrosanct, your job that we love, called journalism. Report and take your emotions out, whether you like or you don't like him, but leave it and report at what happened at the Madlanga Commission or Ad hoc Commission. Don't tell, no, he didn't bring too much meat. Now he's bringing meat now. What are they saying?
All right.
Go check, silent.
Okay,
so
got that.
The problem is we are too embedded and we are not honest. And that thing is going to kill this club. And some of us, we are not going to keep quiet.
All right. I'll tell you what, we're gonna stop in 5 minutes because I'm aware of where we are with time, right? So we've got a couple of minutes just to ask you. So if we just pick up on that, I mean, I've interviewed you many times. I certainly, even as a talk show host, you ask questions. That's I would do, and then I certainly give opinion on a certain issue. Meaning the world has changed from the type where you only ask questions, and you've done the same. How do you move between reflecting a reality, which is the sky is blue, versus, in my opinion, the sky is blue and not red because of this reason?
I think I'm old school. I haven't changed a bit in terms of telling the story as I see it. Whatever I write, it's not an opinion. It's the facts. And I always get vindicated. You can't be scared to ask hard questions. And continue to stick to the norms and values of being a journalist. No matter how unpopular you might be, you will be vindicated. Some of us, we wouldn't have soldiered on until, where we are today, 31 years on. Since 1994, the 2nd of July, when I walked into the SAPC, I went there with a purpose and I didn't look back. I also accepted that I will be criticized and I learned from those criticisms. But tell the story as you see it, be fair, be balanced, and don't be scared.
Okay, there we are. I tell you what we'll do is we're going to wrap up now with getting one response from all four of you, because I'm very cognizant of time, right? So here's a question. It came up earlier on in terms of the commercial aspects of media and how that's changed in terms of how media influences, well, you and I, right? So if I use the example, there's been this oft-repeated argument globally, by the way, of the influence of big business and funders in political parties and how that narrative plays out at government level. The same argument can be made for South Africa as well. So I use it as an example. Now to bring it to journalism and the media, right? It's been said by just about every speaker today, there's this unholy alliance now between the role of supporters or funders of media and how they actually influence media. So if we agree that the influence is very unholy, how do we navigate around that? What's the practical win-win solution? I say practical because media does need money to be able to function. I'll ask that to all of you, then we'll wrap up thereafter. Go for it. You've got a minute, right?
Okay, I'm not sure why that is a confusion, because it is called investment. If I'm going to use my money and put it here, that must work for me. So it is almost like saying, you are a journalist, you are working for this institution, but you are not going to subscribe to its Bible. You see, a successful journalist or a communicator is that one who's able to articulate the mission, the vision of their institution. Whether right or wrong, it's another question. Now, how do we influence these relations? How do we manage to navigate where we are not dependent to these sponsors? Because for practical reasons, I must get paid end of the month to take care of my children, my wife. It's a pity this time around she's taking care of me. But these are practical reasons.
Okay, so what's the practical solution then?
The practical solution in media is going to have to try to be self-sufficient. You see, in South Africa, we have the concept of community media. I'm happy that this place has a community radio. Did you know that?
I've spoken at UNISA Radio, by the way, a long, long time ago.
You see, this is one of the greatest achievements of this country. But when we review our 30 years of our successes and freedom, we hardly mention that. We have over 250 community radio stations, and government is assisting them. These are what is called, in terms of the audiences, the motive forces, the people whose pro-poor policies that this government is doing is designed for them.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's pause there because I want to get the other opinions. Sophie, go for it. Your thoughts? I mean, how do we get this win-win solution?
What you have to do is to ensure that your editorial team is strong enough to be able to ensure that it can protect the newsroom from the economic or business influence. And many a times we tend to think people who are influencing the narrative are politicians. Business is worse. And therefore, you must have strong editorial team. If it's a big media house, the responsibility of commercial wing, leave it to sales and your marketing people. Let it not be the responsibility of the editorial
So
team.
commercial interests must not influence the editorial narrative.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, point made. Go for it.
You know, in media sociology, you know, it's quite simple. And we know that there are pressures in the media, whether we like it or not. They'll be there, internally, externally, from advertiser, political parties, pressure groups. So if you just right, whether we like it or not, people are going to poke their nose. But if you have a spineless editor, you can't do anything. I'm not meaning in a demeaning way. I'm just meaning someone who agrees to anything. I can tell you years ago, 702, Cricket South Africa wanted to pull out of 702, pull out advertising because they were writing stories about the Senegalese in cricket during Majola's era. And they say, no, put them out. You have to understand that editorial independence is sacrosanct. It is a wall, it's a barrier that no anyone with money can cross. Even if the owner, like what happened in one of the publications where the owner becomes the chief editor. Unfortunately, the truth is that public trust deficit, we no longer trust it, we no longer buy it, consume it. Lennox, can I throw a curveball? I had a webinar with the Mpumalanga provincial government recently, last Friday, to the Sanef Galadina. Is community media sustainable? Let's ask that question 25 years later. Wait, are they sustainable? Two question 25 years later. Wait, are they sustainable? Two, are we supporting them as government? We said, yes, no. Let's be honest. Prof said we must speak truth power and speak truth ourselves. To the very same media departments, Albi, do you throw money from Gautrain to community media, advertising, taking your CEO boss there? Let's flip the mirror and ask ourselves, it's good to say, yeah, we have community media, but they are struggling. Again, how do we treat them as government spokespersons? We treat them as nagging cousins. We put them aside. We all want SABC. Like, I know politicians who say, I want money in life. And when Teba comes with the tall microphone from Juice FM, they don't listen to me, but they want Mzwandile Mbeje. But I'm a journalist too. Mzwandile is a journalist. We work in fraud. So let's treat community media with respect, not disdain that we've been doing all the years. This is a challenge to our colleagues.
I think it's a point made. Absolutely. Go for it.
So my good friends Sipho Kings and Simon Allison have come up with the solution where they've decided to start their own publications that they publish on WhatsApp. The one is called The Continent. The other one is that they are launching or piloting is the Friday edition. And they don't have advertising. They don't rely on advertising. They rely on funding from people who believe in an independent media. They rely on advertising on people who believe on quality journalism. And I think that they've cracked the code, and that's part of the solution.
So crowd-funded by a community of interest. That means people who believe in that cause.
Exactly. So there is no influence. I think in the 5 years that the continent has been around, they've only had one advert, and they painstakingly wrote why they had accepted that. So I think that they've cracked the code. But if you are going to work for big organizations that rely on funding, or you have a big boss somewhere who calls the shot, I think it's going to be difficult. But you can try, like our Sophie was saying, to have a strong editorial, people who are not easily influenced. But it might be difficult, and also we have to be realistic about the fact that we are parents, we are working for our children. Sometimes people will toe the line because they have to feed their kids.
There we are. All right. The plan was to stop right now, but I've been reminded if the media is the voice of the voiceless, we've got lots of people here who don't have a seat at the front table, so we need to amplify the voice of the voiceless, which is all of you. I can take 3 questions, so whoever wants to ask a question, just there's one there. Number 2, number 3, right? That's it, done. 3 questions. Now, I have to ask you because of time. Please don't give a comment because there's just no time for that. Ask a specific question and we'll decide one of them will answer it. That's all the time we have, right? So that's 1, that's 2, and lady in the green, 3. That's it. Thank you. Go for it.
Molweni, Ndiyabulisa, igama lam ndinguNoli Babalo Mcinga. I'm a former member of parliament and I am a politician. And I used to be a publisher of Nto News, a local newspaper in the Eastern Cape. I thought I was going to hear a lot of solutions from the panelists, but instead I hear only complaints. And with the experience that you have, I think we need more solutions than complaints. Babu Temba mentioned something about writing about the malls in township Soweto, and then there's Maponya today, but you are not writing anything about the rural communities. I mean, we saw during COVID-19, rural communities didn't know what is happening. They didn't have masks, they didn't have anything. What can you suggest can be done so that the rural communities, they know what's happening around the world, and also the deaf community? I'm happy that we see someone who's here, but who writes a newspaper that is in sign language? Are you doing anything about it? And Mama Sophie, you've written stories across the world, right? What do you think the media freedom in South Africa compared to the others? What can we learn from what you have experienced? Because we know that in other countries, there's a lot of freedom fighters.
All right, thanks for that. Right, so Sophie, you'll go next. Just who's going to answer that first one? Yeah. You got the mic. No, let's just do this. Okay, you're going to make a note of that, right? Okay, so number 2, that's 2, and then that's 3, right? Let's get the mic to the lady in front here. Right, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I go by the name of Tsolofelo Hope Ndidisang, and I have a question for the journalist. Journalism are facing a whole new ball game in the digital age, and it's not all sunshine and rainbow. So my question is, what are the challenges that journalists are facing in this new digital world? Because we no longer have we do have, but it's not as it used to be, the newspaper, how we used to read it on paper. So yeah, that's my question.
Okay, got that, the big challenge of the digital world. And the third person, right?
Good evening to everyone. My name is Elizabeth Jalke. It's a privilege and honor to be in this room. And I would like to ask, what advice would you give to young black women, emerging journalists who want to use their voices to challenge narratives and tell authentic African stories? I think I speak for the women who are sitting in this room, who are growing as journalists. Is there still a seat at the table? Thank you.
Okay, got that. Right, so those are 3 questions. I'll leave it to the panel here to decide who must answer. Some of them are directed to individuals. Just go for it. Who wants to go first? Sophie, go for it. Yeah. You need the. Can we get the mic over here, please, man? Yeah. Thank you. Let's do that. Right. Thank you.
I think the question on media freedom around the world is quite an important one, particularly at this juncture. I'm very proud to be a South African. I'm very proud to be a journalist in South Africa, because the rights of journalists are protected. And no matter how difficult it can be at times and heated, all institutions, including South Africans, ordinary South Africans, respect the rights of journalists to tell a story. And they are enshrined in the Constitution. In many African countries, there is no such a thing. And not only on the continent, because we tend to think that bad things are happening in Africa only. No. Look what's happening in America. Those journalists, the White House correspondent, the Pentagon, recent example, how journalists were treated, how President Trump treats journalists. And therefore, much as we as journalists in this country, we are still enjoying the rights that are there in the Constitution of the Republic and the respect from the South Africans and different institutions. Yes, at times it gets ugly. Never be complacent, because nobody, I think, or let's say the world never thought one day a journalist will walk into a White House presser with the President of the United States of America. And it's horrible, guys. It's horrible. Guys, I don't know